Good evening, it's Friday night, 7 o'clock, and as always, you are tuned to the Friday Night Football Pitch with myself, Cammy McDonald, Dennis Newell, and tonight we are joined by Spurs fan. Terribly sorry, Steve, to get you on at this time of night, but this time of the week, but we're joined by Spurs fan Steve Hitchin. And as you can tell, we're probably going to be looking back at some of the European results, some fantastic games in the Champions League Tuesday and Wednesday, some cracking results last night for some British clubs in Europe. One of them obviously not being Spurs, unfortunately, but we will touch on Spurs in Holland, Manchester United in Spain, and Rangers' outstanding result in Turkey, as well as obviously looking back at the week's results. As I say, we'll touch on the Champions League, look ahead at this weekend's Cup and League fixtures as well on both sides of the border. And we may well be touching on the ruination of the game of football by what we're calling video-assisted referees. And you never know, Dennis might have a 10-minute rant tonight to follow on from his 8-minute one of a couple of weeks ago. But first of all, good evening to Steve Hitchin. Steve, how are we doing?
Yeah, all good, thanks. Thanks for having some.
Good evening,
Steve.
Yeah, good evening to you both. As I say, hi, Dennis. Steve, apologies. We seem to get you on every time Spurs have been garbage this season, which is actually fair enough. You've only been on 3 times, but
yeah, I've been a lot more than that.
Spurs have been. I think Spurs have been crap a lot more times than that this season. But we will touch on Spurs last night in Holland. As I say, I watched football pretty much on YouTube the following morning, and I watched the highlights this morning, of which there wasn't very many, Steve, if you're a Spurs fan. Very poor performance in Alkmaar last night.
There wasn't any, to be honest. I watched the whole game live, and I was amazed. I mean, I've always been a fan of Postecoglou. I've supported him even when we had a really bad run in the league, because you could see that what he was trying to do. What he's trying to do, we played really good attacking football, and you forgave him them our defensive frailties, because that was the game he was playing. But the problem I had on yesterday was that not only did the defence look terrible, but we offered nothing going forward. There's got to be one thing or the other. I mean, go there and defend and come back with a 0-0, or try and attack and 3-3 or win 3-2. But they offered nothing either end of the park, to be honest. It was terrible. They looked terrified. They short sideways and backwards passes, no hardly any movement up front. They just looked terrible. It's the worst I've seen them look this season by a long way.
Certainly, as I say, Dennis, that watching that game this morning, the 3 or 4 minutes that I watched on YouTube, there certainly was very, very few highlights at all. I don't even think Spurs had any shots on target really to talk of, certainly, and it did look a kind of lousy game all in. I don't think AZ Alkmaar were much better, which maybe actually...
No, I mean they're a poor side, Alkmaar, but they were still the better side on the night.
Oh, by far. But as I say, I think possibly that maybe spells some good news for Spurs, that they can get them back to White Hart Lane, only one behind, and turn it on a wee bit down in London. You could see a different performance, different result.
Yeah, you hope so.
But they need to do that.
Last chance of winning anything. It's Postecoglou's last chance of probably keeping his job. So you think they'd try and get a bit more out of them in the home game, because, like I say, if not, that's it really. I think it's all over for him. Especially what we saw on what we saw last night. I mean, like I say, when he first came to the club, they was a bit frail in defence, but they looked really good going forward. But now they're not offering anything anywhere on the pitch, which is bad. So.
Yeah, and it's made even worse by the fact that Harry Kane's banging in the goals in Germany.
Yeah, it is a bit. Yeah, I've already forgotten about him anyway. He's long gone. But he was, as any Spurs supporter tell you, he was never any good.
No. He flattered to deceive a lot in the games, that's for sure. But Dennis, a disappointing own goal last night. I don't know how much you've seen at all, but a really, really scrappy own goal.
It was a great finish.
I don't know what the lad was doing in the line.
Yeah. No, it was a great finish. I mean, I don't know. You could if you tried to do that, you could never actually score like that in a million years, could you?
Yeah, there's not very often your centre half's going to get an overhead kick. That's for sure. Unfortunately, it's at the wrong end of the park.
It was Bergvall, wasn't it? It was midfielder or attacker. Yeah. It was a great goal. But,
listen, he at least did a shot on target.
Yeah, that was probably. I think we had one more attempt on target, but it was. Well, I think it's just a hack from outside the area straight at the goalie, but I think that was their only other one.
Well, he's
they
actually
look terrible. Still, I mean, they'll. They got Bournemouth on Sunday. They'll lose that definitely because he'll rest players. But who's he going to rest? I mean, I don't know. What's he resting for? They was useless when they had been rested. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, also, what's happening with the defenders? I mean, he keeps on saying that Romero and Van der Ven are fit. Van der Ven came back 4 games ago, played half a game, and he said, "Oh, we're managing his minutes," and he hasn't played since. And he said he's not injured. So what's going on?
Well, that's managing his minutes.
Yeah,
and that's definitely managing his time.
Yeah, he was on the bench last night, I think, but I don't know what's going on there. He said they could have played last night, but he said he didn't want to risk them because the pitch was a bit hard, apparently.
But, I mean, if you look at it, Spurs had most of the game last night. 61% they had, and basically when you actually look at the amount of chances they had compared to the opposition, which are poor, they had 12 chances, 12 shots. Spurs had 7. Shots on target, Spurs had 1. They had 5.
I don't remember our 7 attempts on goal, Dennis. I watched the whole game. I must have missed them.
Yeah, they're 7 shots at goal. I'm just looking at the stats here. Attempts outside the box, Spurs had 5. They had 2, and basically, it looked as if it was almost easy-peasy when you look at. I know you've had 61 versus 38%, but the bottom line is you've got to take chances out of the 7. I don't know how they've had 12. I really don't. It just seems crazy.
I mean, they didn't. So they had that many chances. It was a pretty poor game, but they had one massive chance when there was a big scramble and it was blocked on the line twice. That they should have scored that one. But also Vicario made one really good save as well. So they could have easily had 2 more.
I was going to say, keeper had a good game last night for you. Vicario made 3 or 4 decent saves.
Yeah.
Is he young? I've never seen any of it other than the goal, which was just a flash. I mean, is Son not doing the business anymore? And you think
I don't know what's happened to him.
He's gone now, Steve. Do you think
he's poor? He's been poor all season. The only time he played really well was a European game. I think probably the last one when he knew he was only playing for half a game. He was only playing for 45 minutes, and they was going to save him for something else after that. And he was really good for half a game when he knew he was only playing half a game. Makes me think he's past it. He knows he can't do it for 90 minutes. Maybe, I don't know.
See, I'm looking at this, and I don't know whether he's twice the player as the other 2, but it says here Solanke come on in the 72nd minute for him, right? Was Solanke subbed in the 92nd minute?
Yeah, Stanky came on in 70-odd minutes, then got injured and went off again.
Yeah, right. And the boy Scarlett come on. Yeah,
Scarlett came on, right. Yeah. I noticed that the guy playing centre forward for Alkmaar was Troy Parrott, who was a former Spurs academy player. He didn't really get in the side at Spurs, so they've shipped him off. I don't know if he's on loan to Alkmaar. Imagine if he was on loan, they wouldn't let him play, though, because I'm not sure. Maybe they've sold him to Alkmaar, but he's a former Spurs player. Never quite made the grade, Troy Parrott. And he looked quite good. Well, we made all their players look good, but I don't know where he suddenly sprung from.
Certainly did look a very disappointing performance.
But having said that, though, surely this is not a hard shift to turn this game around for next week.
No, they don't. I mean, I don't know. They'd only have to be slightly better. Probably to go through, because but they should have to be. They should be a lot better.
Yeah,
but in the next round, it's already pre-drawn, isn't it? The next round is Ajax and Frankfurt, or Ajax or Frankfurt. And I watched a little bit of that game, and they both look good sides. So even if we get through, we're rather likely to beat either of them, unless we're a lot better. So.
The thing is, though, you just look at this. I mean, we've seen it last night with Rangers, that almost the form goes out the window. It really does. And you can only take them game by game. You know, every team has, well, not every team, but there's quite a lot of good flaws in them, more so in the Europa League. And you couldn't actually, and I found this very difficult this year, to try and predict results more than normal. You just don't know who's going to turn up. And again, that's maybe moving on as we do to the Rangers game at some point. But if you look at Tottenham, you were expected them to come away maybe 3-0 winners or something like last night, even though they're away from home.
I didn't think it would be we win easy, but I expected us to win a tight game by maybe
Yeah.
but, and then finish them off at home quite easily. But that's not going to happen now. But now we'll have to see. I mean, the Europa League. I'm not surprised. Even when we was playing poorly in the Premier League, we were still favourites of the bookies to win the Europa League. It's not surprising really, because when even in that last 16, at least half of them would struggle in the Championship.
Yeah.
It's not a great standard. I mean, there's probably 6 or 8 half-decent clubs in it who are probably playing better than Tottenham at the moment. Like I say, teams like Roma and Frankfurt and Ajax, they're probably all better than us. I mean, and there are a lot of teams worse than us in it. I mean, Man United for one. That's the only thing I can hang on to as a Tottenham supporter. Man United are probably worse than us.
As long as they don't get through, Steve, is that it?
Yeah, exactly. As long as they don't get through. But I mean, we've played well against them twice this season. We've beat them both times. But there you go. I mean, I don't know. I thought our issues were different to Man United's. I thought our issues were injuries and lack of experience, and United's was just lack of effort. But after last night, I think we've got lack of effort problems as well.
But is that not the point I'm making? That there's a lack of consistency throughout a lot of teams nowadays, that you just can't predict a result. There's no the consistency you would expect, and you just need to look at the English Premier League, and you see where some of the big boys that you would call it are lingering, and yourself obviously is one, and Man United. You would never anticipated that, and you certainly wouldn't have even taken Notts Forest at the start of the season. You'd be sitting in the third spot. But if you go down to the bottom of that division, or bottom half of it, with Tottenham, Man United, and even West Ham to a degree, you would never expect Bournemouth, Brighton, even Fulham to be sitting quite clear above them.
No, you wouldn't. No, you'd expect. I mean, I don't think everyone at Tottenham expects us to guarantee top 4 football in the Champions League, but you think by this stage of the season we'd still be in the shout getting it. But
no, you just need to look at the last couple of years, and it was debating if Tottenham would strengthen their squad, just how much of a challenge would they actually present, and they haven't done that at all. They've gone backwards.
No, they missed an opportunity, didn't they? When Pochettino was manager, Pochettino took them to the Champions League, finally took them to runners-up in the league, and he then said he needed to strengthen to continue the progress. They didn't give him the money. They didn't allow him to strengthen to any great degree. He left, and they've gone backwards ever since. Really. Do
you think that's a problem, Steve, that they're not giving the manager the resources? Because when you look at it, it contradicts itself when you spent 50 million, was it, in Solanke?
Yeah, and also they got an option to sign this Tell, the Bayern Munich player, for 50 million. But 2 or 3 times I've seen him this season, he looks terrible as well. So
yeah,
I mean, Solanke's decent. He holds it up well. He's a good old-fashioned centre forward, but he's not.
Is he getting enough game time?
Well, he's always injured, isn't he, like the rest of the squad? But I don't know. I was saying to Cammy earlier on, the thing is that things are so bad at Tottenham at the moment that our best player by a long way in the last half of the season has been Jed Spence. And they didn't even want him at the club. He was about 5th or 6th choice fullback. They didn't even want him at the club. They tried to loan him out. They've signed him when they signed him when Mourinho was there. Mourinho said he didn't want him, or was it the Italian guy? I can't remember. The other manager that flopped at Tottenham, but I don't know, Conte. Yeah, so they didn't want him at the club, and all of a sudden we got about 5 fullback injuries. So Jed Spence gets the game, and he's been our best player for the last 10 games.
And the young boy Gray, you think this
is Gray's been a revelation? Yeah, he's only 18. They've chucked him in. He's been an absolute revelation. He looks a really good player, but I don't know. I mean, the rest of them probably make him look good, but he's been a revelation, Archie Gray. He's obviously a good player. They're probably going to ruin him. They're going to play the whole season out of position as an 18-year-old, and they wonder whether he's coming or going next season.
So, Steve, who do you need to get back in the team to turn it around?
Well, we look much more solid when we got Van der Ven and Romero, but I don't know what this sort of managing their game time, exactly what that means. But they're both supposed to be fit now. So we may see them at Bournemouth on Sunday.
You might see them next week as well.
Yeah, we should see them next week.
That'll give you an edge.
Hopefully So hopefully Postecoglou thinks the pitch is soft enough for him to play next season. So it should be all right.
They're nearly treated as well as racehorses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
if the firms, if the ground is too firm, they're no. I just don't get this nowadays. I don't know, honestly.
No, he said the pitch was a bit uneven and a bit firm, so he didn't want to risk them. But there you go.
Incredible. You wouldn't get that.
Absolute madness.
Yeah, I think if we played half decent, we'd still go through. But like I say, Frankfurt or Ajax have to play a lot better in the quarterfinals against them.
Yeah. And do you think you'll get a result against Bournemouth, who have lost the last 2 games?
No.
You don't think so?
No chance. I mean, it is Tottenham, so anything could happen. We could win 5-0, but I don't know. He'll. I say he'll rest players for the Europa League game, but last night was their first game for over a week, so they had 8 days rest anyway, and they still look terrible. So they look better when they're playing 3 times a week, to be honest.
Yeah. What we could do is maybe move back to we'll come on to the Rangers game a bit later, Cammy, if you like, and we'll look at
Manchester United. Manchester United, obviously, the other game last night. And I know what Steve was saying there about Manchester United looking disappointing so far this season. I thought in the first half, Manchester United looked decent up until Fernandes gave away the soft penalty. I thought Manchester United looked good. They certainly looked the better side in Spain last night against a decent Real Sociedad side. But in the end up, obviously, they gave away a stupid penalty and ended up kind of holding on at the end, and coming away with a 1-1 draw. So neither English side really acquitted themselves overly well last night, I don't think, guys.
No, again,
it was a good. I think United result was a good result, 1-1 over there. But
but as I say, I think after an hour you'd have been sitting here going, "It's Manchester United could end up winning by 2 or 3 here," And as I say, to almost end up holding on, but and Anna had a couple of decent saves to make defensively. There were a couple of saves to make as well, So I think obviously they could have been a much better result. I think, Steve.
Yeah. It should be. I didn't see the game, but I read there was a much better side for the first hour or so. So,
yeah. Was there a reason why they only had 7 substitutes last night? Against the Man United game only had 7 substitutes.
What, used or on the bench in total?
No, that was on the bench.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No idea.
Showing 7, which is very strange. No sign of Maguire. I don't know, but then again, that's maybe a blessing because he's a bomb scare in there. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know for the life of me why you're looking at maybe the new manager coming in and thinking there's a future there, and you're playing Maguire when it's not bringing anything to the table.
Nobody else.
Still in the jersey.
They're very, very slack for defenders, Dennis. That's the problem. That Manchester United cannot keep a centre half fit. Whether it's Maguire or whoever, they are really, really struggling at centre half. They did the same last season as well, if you remember, Steve. They struggle to keep centre halves fit, they signed centre halves are injury prone. That's about it. I think that's about it. Lindelof. That's pretty much it. So they definitely looked decent last night for the first hour. Centre half or not, and looked good going forward. Garnacho created a few chances, had a few chances. They certainly looked okay last night, but in the end ended up having to hold on towards the end. No, as I say, I think before the game they'd have taken a 1-1 draw, or they'd have taken any kind of result over there. And they're certainly in it in the tie, getting back to Old Trafford next week.
I don't think they're the worst in the Premier League by a mile. Seriously. I think
there's at least 3 or 4 sides worse than them.
No, well, I think Cammy. I think there's just that link missing somewhere for them to click and be full flowing. You're not getting a fluent game with them. It just looks as if they've never seen or played with each other before. There's no fluency in their match, and it's just needing something. And I don't know if the new guy is the answer for it to try and get them to play.
I've said before. I've said on here. I think Almiron is the answer at Old Trafford. The issue I think he's having is he's trying to fit round pegs into square holes or square pegs into round holes, whatever you want to call it. He's got a system that he likes to play, and he doesn't necessarily have the squad of players to play that. I think once maybe giving him a couple of transfer windows, if he'll get that, and he starts to be able to bring in his own players that fit into this system, that he will turn it on at Old Trafford. I think when you look at what he did in Lisbon, they've looked decent up until he left. I think Sporting Lisbon were revelations in Europe. I think they were doing well at home as well. They obviously beat Manchester City 5-1. How good a result that is, I don't know. But as I say, I think when you get to the stage there, if he can bring in his own squad of players or start to build a decent squad of players that can fit his style of play, then I think Manchester United will be a revelation, whether that's next season or the following season. I think they will be.
Mm-hmm. Time will tell if he gets the time. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, I don't know how long you get when you look at the results as against even the performances. I mean, some of it's been dire, but I just think there's something just lacking that wouldn't take a lot to fix it. I can't put my finger on it though. But then I'm not the guy that's trying to do that job. It's a hard job to do when you're on a run, and he's probably working his socks off week in and week out, and not having, what you say, maybe the personality would like him to actually get it turned.
Yeah. I think you get rid of the wrong player. I think it could well have been Bruno Fernandes. He should have get shipped out, but shipping out your captain's difficult, I think. But Fernandes, for me, is the bad apple at Old Trafford, and whether it was the right thing to do to ship Rashford out, whether he needed a new challenge, whether he was getting stale, I don't know. But certainly for me, Fernandes is the trouble in that dressing room. And I think you look as if you agree there, Steve.
I do, yeah. I mean, like I say, he's the main linchpin with Man United. When he makes an effort and he plays well, Man United look decent.
Yep.
When he's up to his old tricks, he looks as if he really doesn't care, and he's only putting 50% effort in, and Man United look poor. He is the main reason for their good or bad performances. Whatever he does governs the way the team plays. And quite a few times this season, I've watched him, and he's looked like he's got a terrible attitude. He really does. Yep. But then a couple of other times I've seen him, he's looked world class. So
outstanding.
Whenever he feels like it, I don't know, but it doesn't help the side.
No, that's maybe the bit.
I don't think you can do that.
So that's maybe the bit that I'm trying to put my finger on, is how come you've got a player with potential that is absolutely magnificent when he's in song, and then he dips away beyond belief. That as a manager, you've got to alert him to that and say, by the way, you can't keep playing like this. It's either up there or out the door. And that allowance is almost the same as you could say with Maguire. Maguire turns out occasionally and he's no bad. But there's other games he's down there and he drags the rest of the team down because all he's doing is filling a jersey. Now, I don't care what you say, he's got to have people in reserve within that club that he can bring in and slot them in and get more out of the two we've just mentioned there who are underperforming. You've got to. It's impossible to say that you've not got a squad of players that you could say Fernandes having a right stinker of a game, say whatever day, right, you decide you're not playing. I'm putting a youngster in here because I've watched them in training. The game can't be that bad that we haven't got players that are young that can be brought in and freshen up. If you get beaten, at least you've had a go at it.
Man United have a decent squad of young players. They've got 3 or 4 really good young players, and in many ways they've been the highlights of the side, So the problem is, I think one of them's looking for a highly inflated contract, and that I forget the lad's name, but the England international, I think Steve, he thinks he's made it, and he's looking for, is it Kobe Manu? Is it Manu or something like that?
Oh yeah.
I think he's looking for a massive contract, So that's a bit of an issue there as well at Old Trafford, but I think give him time. Give them a chance to build a squad of players. Again, do they have the finances? That's another issue. That could be the big issue because obviously they're trying to cut costs behind the scenes. So that could be the issue at Old Trafford, certainly, if he's got a chest to bring in players, but who knows? But moving away, obviously, from the English sides and looking at what Rangers have done last night, Dennis, we've held on half an hour. Let's be honest. For me, that's the highlight of the season. Rangers have had some fantastic results away from home, but by VAR again, that was an outstanding result last night for Rangers that could have been so much better had VAR not intervened with a couple of so close offside decisions.
Without a doubt, I've sung their praises in the last European game when they get through, and this excelled beyond belief when I actually sat down. Fenerbahce hadn't lost in 18 games.
Yep.
So I'm sitting thinking, Rangers have got their hands full tonight. Mourinho will have them fired up on the back of what the last manager made a comment about he didn't like his style of play, especially, which is a bit a tongue-in-cheek statement when he's on us. At that point, he'd won 16 games back-to-back, or hadn't lost any. And you look at it and you go, well, that would maybe noise him up. But then, I'll tell you what, they just looked a really poor to average team last night. And that's because Rangers worked their socks off. And I keep saying this all the time. What you lack in skill and ability, you can make up for it by the effort and commitment. And that's what Rangers done last night. I've never seen them working so hard. And that work rate proved they could go on and compete at any level. They haven't got the best players in the world, but when they're working their socks off, they go and shut defenders down. They work hard in the midfield. There was a few passes went astray, which is to be expected. But overall, the quality was magnificent. And, I'm the biggest critic in Dessa.
I've been waiting for this.
And I don't mind being proved wrong. But what is it to say about one swallow doesn't make a summer? And that's where Dessa...
girlfriend.
The bottom line is, even Ali McCoy's commentating said last night after he'd scored, he says, well, that's a good bit done. Look, when's the rest of this coming? What's going to happen in the second half?
Yeah.
Meaning the amount of chances he misses. Steve, you've probably not followed this boy.
I wasn't surprised at the result last night. I've not seen Rangers as much as you, obviously, but once or twice I've seen them this season. Once would obviously been when they played Tottenham in the Europa. I thought Rangers looked decent, looked a good side.
Without a doubt. Each time they've
played in Europe, they have looked outstanding.
Yeah. But you just needed to watch them against the Championship side that put them at the Scottish Cup, Steve, Queen's Park.
Oh, they lost to Queen's Park 1-0.
Yeah,
lost to Queen's Park, lost to Motherwell, lost to St Mirren at Ibrox. Yeah. So you're looking at a Rangers side who are outstanding in Europe and are absolute crap at home in the league.
Shocking at home. And in fact, when you say at home, we mean in Scotland. They are so bad, it's embarrassing to say that's the same team that have had these poor defeats. But listen, see if they can play like that last night. Now, maybe the boy Barry Ferguson is the man to make sure I'm on your case. You're not going to get away with being slack. The litmus test is, of course, the next big game. Because with the fact that they've been knocked out of the Scottish Cup with Queen's Park, they then don't have a game, which is Scottish Cup weekend coming up, because they're out. So the next game they've got is the European tie again. Then they play the following match in the Scottish Premier League against Celtic. Now, what a turn up for the books that would be if Rangers were on a high getting through this tie. Because if they play like they did last night, there's no way in this planet that other team will touch them. Yeah. It should have been 5-1 last night. And that maybe takes me on to the bit you start putting the clock on it and have the rant. Because VAR is becoming an embarrassment to the game of football. There was 2 goals last night that they were hell-bent and actually splitting hairs to make sure that he was off. It's as if they're dying to make sure that he's offside.
Yeah.
It's spoiling the game of football. Perfectly good goals are being punished by VAR. I don't believe for a minute that a decision of that magnitude would be enough that the defender could get and turn around the other side of him by that much and prevent the goal. If it's a body, yeah, fair enough. If it's a width of a body, I've no problem with that. But when you start to say somebody's offside by that amount, what impact would that have had if you had said Did he deliberately move forward by that much so he would be offside?
Yeah.
No, they don't. So
no, I agree, Dave. So the thing is, I think I've mentioned this to you before. When it's offside by a couple of millimeters, I mean, the offside rule is you got to be in offside position when the ball's played forward. Now, if it's a couple of millimeters and the players are moving opposite directions, how do they know the exact point that ball starts moving forward? And how much difference does that make in time and space? I reckon that when that ball starts moving forward, even if you sort of took a split second, a quarter of a second, you've still got a difference of maybe a yard between them two players being on or offside. And that's why they should keep VAR to clear and obvious errors. They should give the linesman his duties back. Linesmen won't flag anymore. They just want VAR to make decisions.
No, until somebody gets their leg broken.
Yeah, exactly.
The continuation of play going on, somebody's got to make a rash tackle and somebody got a really bad tackle. And that's because the linesmen are not putting their flag up early enough.
Just keep VAR for clear and obvious errors. Let the linesman do his job. He puts his flag up or he doesn't put his flag up. And if VAR can make a clear and obvious decision of an error or not in the space of a few seconds and make it. But there was one the other week where they looked at something for about, was it 11 minutes or something?
I mean, that's fucking nuts. That is absolutely crazy.
Here I'm going to defend it. Desser's goals were brilliant last night. And I'll tell you what, the one he set up for Cherney, the pass was sublime. It was absolutely
Desser's was outstanding.
Now, what Rangers should do is don't play him again all season. Punt him in the summer, they'll get their money back. Because in that display, he's worth his weight in gold.
Dennis, in that display, they need him on Thursday.
I know that, but anyway,
that's the problem. I know. Obviously, you're being facetious when you're saying that, but mate, to chop 2 goals off last night from Rangers. I mean, Steve, we've got a unit of measurement up here. Scotland's the only country that has the measurement of a ball here, and essentially that's what we're talking about last night. We were really talking about a ball here last night, and it's absolutely crazy.
The goal was the equivalent of that. I mean, it was maybe 2 millimeters if you were lucky. So they got the benefit. That goal line technology is outstanding, right? It's quick. It comes straight to his watch, job done. What VAR does prolongs, and basically what they're actually doing is they're not rewarding anything in the game for good play. They're killing it. They're actually killing the game. So what was the invention? I would rather at this moment in time, as you say, keep it for certain things. But I would also find that you've got guys locked in a room that half of them don't know or haven't played football. That's the first thing that galls me. Secondly, I would rather have a referee making mistakes than have to put up with VAR for a lifetime because it's getting worse by the minute. And so much so that basically your main man, Column, has added tonight that basically the goals should not be disallowed for Celtic against Dundee United. And also, what's he said here? Because it's come up tonight.
Celtic.
Yeah. But St Mirren should have been awarded a penalty in the league loss to Celtic, okay? And the 22nd of February, Maeda scored after, and it was a great ball across too, but you couldn't really see it. Alistair Johnson cut the ball back against Hibs, and Maeda scored. And they took for ages. And VAR said and disallowed it. Now,
Dennis, we know VAR's taking its time, but for Christ's sake, 22, that's 13 days since that decision was made.
I know, but
VAR's taking a while to make decisions on that. Now, if we're talking about 13 days, you're talking about 11 minutes, Steve. We're talking about 13 days up here for VAR to make a decision. Yeah, it's absolute nonsense.
Still got black and white television in our studio, though.
Clear and obvious errors, or just don't bother with it. You can do like they do in cricket. If it's a close one, they have what they call umpires call, don't they?
Yeah.
If it's close, do that in football. If it's a close one, call it linesman's or referee's call. Whatever decision they've made stands if it's close, unless it's clear and obviously wrong.
You know what's horrible? You know what's horrible about it? You're elevating supporters to a massive high with adrenaline flowing. And they stand there for 5 or 6 minutes and then they get deflated. And I think that's disgraceful. That's
Dennis, you know what's going to happen at some point in time. It's only going to take 2 or 3 spectators who are wound up so far by a poor decision on the park and then VAR changing it or vice versa, that these spectators lose the plot.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have a situation there where you're going to have some nutter in the stadium or some clowns in the stadium going absolutely crazy and doing some damage, or and that's what it's going to come to. Now, if that's a football player that does that on the park, he's charged with inciting riots or inciting whatever, incitement anyway.
Yeah.
And VAR, how are you going to charge VAR and a guy in a room?
No, I don't know.
I think in real terms.
Sorry, Des. The thing about VAR is the supporters get to celebrate twice now, don't they? They get to celebrate the goal, and if it's actually given, they get to celebrate again. And it works sort of both ways, doesn't it? It's sort of happy, you're sad, you're sad, you're happy. But sometimes it sort of throws up little funny moments. I mean, this is only funny because I'm a Tottenham supporter. But do you remember the Champions League quarter-final when we played at Man City? And we was, I think it was 4-3. We was 4-3 up, and they needed another goal to knock us out at the end. Yeah. And they scored in injury time, didn't they? And then do you remember Pep Guardiola run them down the pitch, swinging his underpants around his head, absolutely ecstatic. And then VAR disallowed it, and Spurs went through to the semis. Sometimes it's funny. Obviously, not if you're a Man City supporter, but sometimes it's quite funny. But like I say, it's just the whole thing's a joke. It should be quick decisions or don't bother.
But I think that it should come out that the public, the paying public, should have a vote in this. And I repeat, I'd rather have a bad referee than VAR, without a question of doubt. I mean, what it's done is it's made referees worse because they'll not make a decision that's solid anymore and stick by it. Yeah. So they're getting, instead of the referees improving, they're actually getting worse because they're not in the front line. They're not having to make that split decision. It's a weight off their shoulders. I know they want them to have an easier game, and it's a tough, horrible job as a referee. But one, they're well rewarded for it. And they go in there and they know exactly what it's about, right? But on the back of that, the VAR has contributed nothing to their skill set that some of them have got, and quite a lot of them have. And we know, because you had a rant a few weeks, maybe a month ago, about Clyde's refereeing against at Hamilton's Park. And to be honest, you're going to come across that. But we're also coming across it with VAR that's worse. I mean, I'll go back to Dessers' 2 goals. That's disgraceful that boy didn't get it counted in A2. Absolutely disgraceful. And VAR should be ashamed that they're thinking
because it's too tight to call.
Contributing.
Football is the only sport that I can think of in the last 10 years that's been made worse by technology. If we take tennis has been improved by technology. Steve, you mentioned cricket earlier on. You've got it in cricket. Rugby union, rugby league. Obviously, the sport I follow, Dennis, American football. They've all been bettered by technology. Football is the only sport where technology is making it worse and making refereeing worse because, as you say, referees are scared to make a decision or don't feel they have to make a decision now because they can go to the man in the stand. And that to me is wrong.
The other thing I never understand with VAR is VAR is obviously there to pick up the errors, obviously. But how many times when VAR says to the referee, you may have made a mistake, go and look at the monitor. I've never once seen a referee go to that monitor and say, no, I was right.
No.
They change the decision every time. So why waste that time? Why not just say to the referee, you was wrong, change your decision, don't mess about with the monitor? Because not one of them has ever said, no, I was right.
But something, see, going to look at that monitor, your mind's already halfway made up. Yeah, because he's had it in his ear, and all he's really doing is, again, it's a killer of time. And he's going over there, and I'll reckon half of them that go to the screen are not really any clearer than what's come through their ear. But when you look at technology, we're over 100 years into the game of football, and 2 of the best that have come out cost nothing. Well, when I say cost nothing, the goal line technology, we'll take that as one, right? You'll not guess what the other one is. Shaving foam. The best thing ever, because players used to encroach in the goals and push it up. But how simple is that? Shaving foam. That guy is who should be asked about the rules. That's the type of person you want. You don't want these people stuck in a room that don't know, oh, we're playing a round ball this week, or is it oval? I don't know. Oh, I just carry on. It's a bit like that one. And I know it sounds a bit terrible, but they're ruining our game. Our game doesn't need it.
But as you said, Steve, VAR for clear and obvious decisions. That's what it's supposed to be anyway. It's only supposed to be called upon if the referee has made a clear and obvious error. You're not telling me that these decisions last night against Dessers were clear and obvious. Neither of them. You know, you're drawing lines there, as I say. You've got triangles, you've got set squares, you know, and you're splitting hairs. As I say, it's the only country where unit of measurement is called a ball hair, and that's what you were talking about last night, you know. Yeah. But anyway, enough about VAR, and let's get on to some of the football again. I know, Dennis, you and I were going to discuss something earlier on, but we'll leave that for another week. I think that we'll bring that in next week. But looking back at the Champions League results this week as well, Dennis, some of the games there were absolutely outstanding. The game in Madrid, the games in Germany, absolutely outstanding games. And what I'm liking about this new format, again, is we're at the last 16 stages, and there's nothing to stop sides from the same league being drawn against each other, same country. Obviously, we've had it in Germany, we've had it in Madrid, and for me, that was two outstanding ties between Bayern Munich and Frankfurt, Bayer Leverkusen, and obviously the two Madrid sides. You know, absolutely brilliant. And without this new format in the Champions League, we would not have had a Madrid derby at the last 16 stage.
No, without a doubt. And you know, I didn't see it because I concentrated on just picking a few games out to watch from start to finish. I mean, they're all there for visibly seeing. I don't have the hours in the day to take it in, but you know how you look in for results. So I go to the BBC and I actually scrolled down and I went, Arsenal 7, PSV 1. And about 20 minutes later, I went, I better go back in and look at that again. Maybe I've picked up.
Arsenal scored 7 goals.
Maybe I've picked up. It's a women's fixture. So I got back in and I went, no, that's the kind of results you get.
That would have been 7-4.
Yeah. So, but the game I watched, and I'll tell you what, you would not believe, you could probably look at the highlights even and not take the same from it, was the PSG against Liverpool. What a match it was. If it had finished, I would have thought, what a great game.
Well, Liverpool was outplayed, as I read. They said Liverpool basically outplayed for the whole 90 minutes. And
and I'll tell you what a substitution. It takes Salah is the worst I've seen him playing all year, without a doubt. And then he puts on the young boy, Billy, what's his... I've forgotten his name.
Harvey Elliott.
That's it.
Harvey Elliott.
Great finish. First touch after about 40 seconds. Slots it into the corner.
Yeah.
Unbelievable substitution. And some managers like that need that kind of luck when they make changes. And that's what will make him win the championship. Maybe the Champions League, but he'll certainly win the Premiership.
He's won the Premier League.
Yeah, I know that. That's quite clear.
We were talking earlier on about Almiron and Postecoglou. There's a manager who's not scared to make a substitution, take off his star player, bring on a kid, and the kid wins in the tie, and in all likelihood puts them through to the next round, you know, because
I don't know about that.
I think at home at Anfield, Liverpool will be a completely different kettle of fish.
Oh,
but Paris Saint-Germain on Tuesday night were outstanding. You know, to lose that game, you know, when they had so much possession, so many shots on goal, so many shots on target. You know, Dennis, you regularly quote obviously statistics on here, and I think when you look at one of the ones you quoted earlier on about the 63% possession and things like that, you know, it just shows you lies in statistics. But that one on Tuesday night, you know, between PSG and Liverpool, they had so much possession, so much play, so much going forward.
70% Cammy in the game.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. 70-30, 27 attempts on goal compared to 2.
That's right. That was the point I was going to finish on. 27 shots. By the way, you will never have the goalkeeper being as good as that ever again. He was world class.
Oh, Alisson was outstanding.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny because Rio Ferdinand went, well, he's got to get 9 out of 10. The commentator guy went, how? What's he done wrong? How's it not 10? Because it was as noticeable as that. Oh,
right, that's because he plays for Liverpool.
Stunning performance. But I'll tell you what, that sometimes is the worst thing you can get, is a right kick in the teeth when you've dominated the game for so long.
Oh.
And, just up the park, bang, great. Good. I'll tell you what, great entertainment. That was really quality.
Yeah. And by the way, see the pass across the goal for Elliott as well.
Yeah.
An outstanding ball across goal.
Oh, definitely.
And tremendous finish as well, and it just goes to show you, Liverpool, you spoke earlier on about captain, or we've all spoke earlier on about captains, Son at Spurs and Fernandes at Manchester United. You're looking last night at Van Dijk on Tuesday night, outstanding performance, outstanding play, and again, a great captain's role to get his side there right through at the end.
He never looks as if he's breaking sweat.
No. Strolls through games.
When you compare him with a lot of centre halves, even throughout the world, it's been a long while since I've seen anybody as good as him. And it doesn't look as if he's slowing down or he's mistiming anything. You just say, he's not a young man anymore. You just think to yourself, how long will he last playing like that? Because he reads the game that well that you say to yourself, he'll last a bit longer than your normal centre half, because his timing and his reading of the game is magnificent. But other games, as you mentioned, were good, Cammy. You've got a glut of ties there that wouldn't have been thrown up the same way if we'd been back to the old system. I don't know your own thoughts on that, Steve. I think we have touched on this before.
Yeah,
new formulas.
It's probably only fair to mention my favourite team, 20-minute Villa, as well. So they had a good result as well. To be fair, they've probably had the best of the draw against Bruges, but 20-minute Villa had a good result as well.
That's a great result. I think one of your colleagues at work was listening to that and was raging at you.
He was raging, because I called them 20-minute Villa. They do that. I'm not saying they're useless for the other 70 minutes, but for me, they only seem to make a massive effort for 20 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's probably just the way I'm watching it.
Yeah. Well, Liverpool only made it for 30 seconds to get a result.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Villa fans shouldn't be offended. At least they get 20 minutes of good football. I'm a Tottenham fan. We don't get any.
Well, I did watch the Villa game, and I must admit they were worthy winners. They took their chances great, and you can't knock them for that. And they might be punching above their weight, but they deserve it because they're consistent. And I know, obviously, they put you out of the cup as well, Steve, so you're not happy about it. But
no, we was quite poor, but they wasn't much better. It wasn't a bad game. It was I think it was quite closely matched the teams, but we started badly. We gave them their 20 minutes at the start, which didn't help. So,
The one thing about Villa is they've got some outstanding young players, which are obviously supplemented by 3 or 4 of the experienced players and big transfers. Morgan Rogers for me is an outstanding player. I think we've spoken about that before. I think he's brilliant. Watkins, I think, is a decent player. He knows where the goal is. The one thing that lets them down, and again we've discussed it several times, is they'll probably get one of the worst centre halves in English football. In the shape of Tyrone Mings. He's absolutely appalling. He really is poor. But again, they've got a good goalkeeper behind him.
I think he's just come back.
Yeah, the best thing Villa could have done was keep him out.
Again, you look at that. I thought, to be honest, he done no bad on Tuesday night. He done no bad, and
he created one of the goals.
He contributed, and I'm thinking to myself, he headed it, but when he headed it, it should have been towards goal. He headed it as if I'll just header it, and it didn't matter where it went, and it dropped lovely for the boy to finish. But I'm looking at the replay and I'm thinking, why have you not headed that goalwards?
Yeah.
And that sums it up. He gets away, he gets out of jail with a great assist in their eyes, when the bottom line was, that's not really what he probably meant. But I've seen him playing a lot worse. And I do believe as well, the period he was out kick-started Aston Villa to go into better things of where they are now. And it's only a matter of time if he doesn't get himself fit and picks up he'll drag Aston Villa back down again.
He'll be shipped out this summer. He'll be shipped out to a Bournemouth or a Wolves or something like that. Maybe a Brentford or something where maybe a Spurs, Steve.
We've got centre backs that are injured all the time, so we don't need any more.
You don't need another one. No. But looking at some of the other ties, guys, I thought the Madrid game looked okay. 3 cracking goals certainly, and then as I say that the Bayern Munich, first time that Alonso's lost to Bayern Munich since he took over as manager at Leverkusen, and what a terrible defeat as well, 3-0, and that looks as though Bayern Munich could be into the quarterfinals already.
Yeah,
certainly Arsenal are there, but some of these quarterfinals are going to be fantastic ties as well.
Yeah, and you look at Bayern Munich and when they played Celtic as well, and I never thought they were great shakes, but they've managed to, what would you say, overcome that, and they beat their rivals quite convincingly in that match. So I think that tie is done.
I think they're much improved this season from last season. They didn't even win the domestic league last season, did they? So.
No. Leverkusen went unbeaten last year and won.
Yeah. But I think Bayern Munich are clear this season. The last time I checked, they may have changed. But
I think they're 11 points clear.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's pretty much like the Premiership.
Yeah, we need to rattle through some of these fixtures, Cam. Here, you're not going to you're going to be overrunning. Where do you want to start? Let's
quickly look at last week's results very, very quickly for anything pertinent. Obviously the big one was probably at Ibrox again, Rangers going down at home to Motherwell. And obviously Celtic getting a victory and pretty much as if we didn't know already, that's certainly the league in Scotland's done. It's been done since Christmas, but mathematically Rangers are at the point where they're needing several snookers, to get close.
But all Barry Ferguson can do now is to put a face on it, like they done last night, and people talk about how good they were. That's all Rangers can do now, and they've got to stop being lacklustre. They've got to come out and realise every game is going to be as tough or as important as last night's was, and if they don't, then they're in real trouble again because they can't keep playing European ties to make them look good. So they've got 2 tough games coming up, and to be honest, I don't know how they'll come out the end of it. They've got the game. It should be wrapped up if that VAR, as we go back to it again, had played a sensible match. That fixture for next week would have been done, and then obviously the following week they'll get Celtic, and that's where again, will they be good? Time will tell on that. But the fixture I watched.
The league.
Sorry, Steve.
Looking at the league, do you say that Rangers have been terrible in the league this year? But they're like 16 points clear of the third. I mean, what are the rest of them like?
Well, that's where you question, Steve, how they're getting beaten by the lower league teams, lower teams. Like you're looking at that and you're going to yourself, well, St Mirren, Motherwell, Aberdeen as well. Teams that basically you're saying to yourself, they're struggling to keep themselves in that top half of the league, and Rangers are being turned over by them. So it just shows you, as you've just said, and you can question that because when you see them in Europe, they're not the same team that's playing at the weekend here in Scotland, Steve. They're miles away from it. And the other game was the Hibs and Hearts game I watched. Good goals.
3 outstanding goals.
Definitely. I mean, I looked at that and the game had just started. And to be honest, Boyle's goal, the way he shaped his body to finish it in that far corner was magnificent. And if that had been down south, they'd be showing it for weeks. The way he ran into it, he half shoved the defender off it and poked into just slotted it into the far side of the goal. I thought it was outstanding. And I will go back to it. Bashiri, the big fella at centre half, when I always question if Hibs have improved their defence, they haven't really, and I think he's still a casualty. And I would think if I was a centre forward and playing in the Premier League, if I had the talent, I would be very disappointed if I didn't score if he was playing, because he's got to be the poorest central defender I've seen in the Premier League. And he's got all the attributes. He's got the hairstyle and the big swagger, big guy. Oh, he'd be smart, going out in the town, loving it. Well, I'm sorry. You can only love it if you fill the jersey properly. And he doesn't for me. And I was a bit disappointed to a point that Hearts didn't at least get a draw. But to be honest, I don't think they deserved it. I think Hibs were better.
No, Hibs done enough to win that game.
Yeah. The two Cadden boys is the difference in the team. They're twins, Steve. Chris Cadden and Nicky Cadden, they play in sort of the channels, right and left side, and excellent deliveries into the box and stuff. And the engine they've got is great. And I think that just maybe was the cutting edge that Hearts didn't have, although you've got decent players within that Hearts team and youngsters as well. But I think Hibs just tipped it and deserved it.
Yeah. And to quote Graham Duffy, Hibs have not Hibbed it.
Sorry?
I'm saying, to quote Graham Duffy, the Hearts fan that we have on several times, who's at the game tonight, Hibs have not Hibbed it this so far. You know, that puts them 7 points clear, I think, of Hearts, you know. So Hibs going from strength to strength under David Gray, and they have been a revelations probably since the tail end of the year, since the tail end of last year, you know. So
he could only have
they
been
started the
minutes away.
season.
He could only be minutes away, Cammy, for getting sacked.
Yeah.
Minutes, not even weeks.
And they've turned it around, you know. So fair play to him.
You've got to hang on to managers. If clubs make a decision with a manager, then that contradicts what we've been saying all season with Clement at Rangers. But that was blatant. The boy Graham at Hibs has shown something, and he's tightened it up, and it's improved dramatically. And they deserve to be where they are.
Yeah, and by all intents and purposes, they'll possibly finish third.
Yeah. Well, in that week's fixtures anyway, we had Rangers going down 2-1 to Motherwell and Celtic beating St Mirren 5-2. The fixtures this weekend are actually created by Scottish Cup, and you've got a quarter-final going on just now. There's 16 minutes played, and it's Hearts 0, Dundee 0. That'll be a good tie. I'll have a wee look at that when we finish. Then tomorrow we have Aberdeen will get Queen's Park knocking out Rangers, and that'll be a toughie for Aberdeen because they've been hot and cold after that magnificent run they went on at the start of the season.
When have they been hot?
Well, they'll come back a wee bit better. Sunday's game is Celtic are playing Hibs, and just watch the big centre half getting found out here in Hibs team. And then Monday, Livingston will get St Johnstone. So the ties are all spread out a wee bit between now and Monday. Looking at the fixtures for the Championship, last week there was a few games on that basically were maybe as predictable as we expected. But the fixtures for tomorrow is Airdrie, Hamilton, Falkirk, Dunfermline, Morton are playing Ayr. Then on Tuesday, Queen's Park have Partick Thistle, and Friday we have Raith Rovers, Dunfermline. Just moving on through the divisions. For the League One, we have Alloa have Arbroath, Annan, Stenhousemuir, Cove Rangers, Queen of the South, Dumbarton, Inverness, and Kelty Hearts. I've got Montrose. Tuesday night's games is Inverness, Stenhousemuir, and Kelty Hearts against Cove. Moving on to the division that you are a fan of, or go and see. The fixtures that we've got are Bonnyrigg Rose, Edinburgh City, your own team, Cammy, Clyde will get East Fife, Elgin are playing Forfar, and Spartans have Stirling Albion, and another tie for tomorrow is Stranraer, Peterhead. There is a game on Tuesday, and I'm just going to mention something on the back of this. Elgin are playing Spartans, right? And I took a note before we came on air, and I've mentioned this before. I can't believe these are all part-time teams, Steve, in our second division, right? So they're all working, like you and I, Cammy. They've got their day's shift. Running for the 14th of January, Peterhead have his Stranraer visit them on a Tuesday. Have you any idea the distance of that?
No.
That's way up to the northeast of Scotland, and Stranraer on the borders of Scotland.
That's almost a 550-mile round trip.
Yeah. Then the 28th of January, Bonnyrigg Rose have got to go down to Stranraer on a Tuesday night. Then the 4th of February, Elgin have got Bonnie Rig Rose visiting them. So again, massive all-round trip. 25th of February, Spartans, Edinburgh, going up to Forfar. And then the 4th of March, which is the one that triggered it off for me, was Stranraer being the host to Forfar. I was looking to see if there was something that related to how the results worked out. I couldn't decipher anything other than it does favour the home teams. 1, 2, 3, three home games, 1 draw, and 1 away victory. So midweek games with that kind of mileage, who is the people that are insane that are working these fixtures out when guys have got to work?
Problem is when else you're going to have them.
Yeah, when I was at Stranraer,
because these are games that are postponed at the weekend. No, I know that, but these are games that unfortunately are postponed at the weekend, and this could lead us on to another topic that we're going to discuss in the next couple of weeks, and that's league reconstruction. In terms of our leagues need to be reconstructed for our part-time sides. Whether we do it regionally or something else, but that's another topic I think that we'll be discussing. Steve, we've got so much to talk about when you're not on, you know what I mean? Some of these stuff that are really only prevalent to us guys up here north of the border, when it comes to religion, when it comes to some part-time sides and league reconstruction and things like that, that obviously you guys don't necessarily face down south in terms of your full-time sides, and obviously your top 4 leagues,
exactly.
Top 5 leagues, in fact, most of the time.
They'd all be professional. Even the league below, the first non-league, was it the National League?
So I was going to say the top 5 leagues actually now, isn't it?
Even they're professional, but looking at the Scottish Division 3 league, I do look at the teams in there. I mean, there's 3 or 4 teams in there that I wouldn't have heard of 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, to be honest, we've got that many teams have dropped out now because the pyramid system, if you want to call it that, was invented. You've Berwick Rangers, you've Cowdenbeath, you've Albion Rovers, you've East Stirlingshire. Who else?
Brecon,
I need to look
Cowdenbeath.
But there's 5 or 6 have dropped out of our old traditional, which was a way back 3rd division, then went to 2nd division, and then they've gone now into a lowland league, the bulk of them. And it's almost like no way back. And if you look at our teams in the 2nd division, they're not as well equipped as some non-league teams in England. No, and even the stadia, when you look at it, when you see some games.
I was just looking at it, and it looks tough to get back. If you look at that Scottish 2nd division, it looks like the bottom team that finishes 10th, they still get a playoff to stay in the league, don't they?
Yeah, well, you see, it's almost like, it's not just like going from, say, your English Premier League to your Championship. When you come out of that 2nd division, it's almost like you're into oblivion. You never see or hear of them. You know what I mean?
But that's a lot of that's the same for down south.
Coverage in our lowland league. So, they're treated like second-class citizens, although they have Albion Rovers as an example, even East Stirling. They've been in the lower divisions for decades, yet they're discarded. On you go, lowland league, we don't want to know about you anymore. And it's a bit like that. It's just the way I think about it, but that's really what it is.
Yeah, forgotten about altogether, unfortunately, but still, that's... The pyramid system is a great idea, but unfortunately, as I say, I don't think it's necessarily been followed through properly. And that's something, as I say, perhaps if we get to have a chat about league reconstruction, there's a lot of talk, obviously, about reconstructing your top league. But I think it's got to be root and branch, I think, if we're looking at a league reconstruction up here, in terms of...
Listen, Cammy, it was debated a way back when I was managing with the junior sides, and then obviously the senior, and I looked at it and I said to myself, it's well overdue. You never had junior clubs actually even getting involved in the senior side of the game with the Scottish Cup. Now they do. And what we call junior up here, Steve, is the equivalent of non-league.
Yeah.
We have a lot of that.
That's below non-league.
Yeah. And what happens now is the pyramid system has allowed the changes that we've got with lowland leagues, etc., but it also allows junior teams to compete in the Scottish Cup. I think it's brilliant. But as you've rightly said, Cammy, it needs revisited again now. I think it's a bit stale, and it's not encouraging people to be thinking this is the way forward. So we maybe need to get the guy in that actually came up with the idea of the Champions League and the Europa League. Get him to reinvent our Scottish League structure. See what we can get for him.
Yeah,
indeed. But that's another chat for another day and another episode of the Friday Night Football Pitch. Pretty much, guys, that's us. We've covered the events in Europe this week for Rangers, Manchester United, Spurs. We've looked at the Champions League. We've discussed the fixtures coming up. 2 or 3 things we left aside for another episode, in terms of league reconstruction. Also visiting a couple of things coming up, but they're for future episodes, as I say. Thanks very much tonight to Steve
Before
Hitchin.
you finish,
Dennis has got something to say.
Yes, I want to say, come on, Dessers, I need you to prove me wrong next week and score another couple of goals, because I don't mind being proved wrong if the quality is as good as it was last night, because we'll not be on until that game's gone.
Yeah, indeed. But as we say, thanks very much, as I say, to Steve Hitchin. Steve, it's always good to see you. It's always good to hear your knowledge about Spurs. I'm terribly sorry that we've introduced you when Spurs have been absolute crap this season.
That could have been any time. That's fine.
We'll get you on when they win a game, Steve. How's that?
Yeah, but know when that'll be.
Well, listen, the last time you were on, you beat Tamworth in the FA Cup the week after it, so the Saturday after it. Yeah, but you did
next week, Steve. Are you going to Cheltenham?
And no, I'm watching it. I was watching the telly, so yeah. So I've got my pennies saved up to lose at Cheltenham.
Right. Well, I'll catch up with you probably next Friday when we have our catch up.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. Indeed. Well, you have been listening to the Friday night. Sorry, catch you later on, Steve. But as I say, you've been listening to the Friday Night Football Pitch. As we say every week, go ahead, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, let everybody know we talk everything here on the Friday Night Football Pitch, because it is always happening on the pitch. Good night.